You know, so you can't, you know, you don't want to take on the criticism of man and, you know, your friends and your homeboys, because, you know, I went through that too. I went through, you know, because, like I say, living in the life of homosexuality. You know, I thank God for him, because, you know, when the first day we talked, because we didn't even meet one another, it was about 3 or 4 weeks before I even allowed him to meet me, because I didn't want it to be on the physical aspect. The first night we talked on the phone, he called me. I was in the middle of worship. And, you know, I stopped it because he called me. So I was on the phone with him, but I was still caught up. So still being caught up, I kind of forgot he was on the phone. I dropped the phone on the floor and continued in my worship. And then probably about an hour later, when I finally did come out of it, you know, I realized the phone was on the floor. And I put my ear to the floor, to the phone, and he was still on the phone. And through my worship, I'm listening to him on the phone worshiping. He was being pulled in, and I'm listening to this. The first night we had actually had a conversation on the phone with each other, and I was listening to him say, "God, thank you for sending my wife. This is my wife. This is what I need." So when you know if this is the way you meet each other, this is the first thing. Immediately you know who you are. You know this your wife. The enemy has been fighting almost from our 3rd day of marriage. You know, bringing others, because I understand that as a female rapper. Just as a rapper, period, as a female in gospel or secular, it's women are very few and far between, you know. And I know it's hard as a man, because then you seeing your wife, you know, she's shaking hands with so many people, and it's 99.9% of them are males. And then when I was as far as being independent, I'm making all my contacts, I'm marketing and advertising myself, I'm calling churches myself. 99.9% of the pastors, you know, youth pastors, they're males, you know. So him having to overcome that hurdle, you know, and just trust and believe that God did send him the woman that God said he sent him, you know. And just listen to him, because he was telling me, "Oh, babe," because I remember telling the men's committee, you know, the kind of woman I wanted. And you that to the T. Because he said, "I want a woman that loved God more than she loved me." Because in the end, when the rubber hit the road, you old school folk, you know what I'm talking about. When the rubber hit the road, when it get real rough, when it get real bad, you know, she'll stick it out, not because of me, but because of God. You know, and it's been times we actually been confronted with that very thing that he asked God for. You know, it's been times I want to just go, but I just thank God that I was obedient. Obedience is better than sacrifices. Sometimes we don't understand, and I know there's a greater purpose for us, and that's what I'm realizing, that, you know what God gonna do for you, it's gonna blow your mind, it's gonna blow my mind, it's gonna blow every hater mind, everybody back in New Orleans that didn't believe. Your mama mind gonna be blown. You're gonna win your whole family over to Christ. Amen. Jermaine, we lifting them all up. We gonna get them all. We gonna get them all in Jesus' name, you know, and that's just what we are, you know, just winning souls for Christ, you know. So that's how you gotta be in marriage, you know. That's why he's here, you know. I don't want him to feel uncomfortable, you know. I don't want him to feel like he's not important, because we done been through that, you know. I done been through being hurt and pushing him away, not because I didn't love him, not because I didn't need him, but because, you know, you get hurt sometimes, and the only way you know how to protect yourself is to keep everybody else out.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't even that I was intentionally doing it, because what I found myself doing, I was doing it with everybody, not just him. I created a box, and I was safe in that shell, but inside that shell, God couldn't even get through. You know, so just pulling myself back out of that mode, you know, and saying, God, you know, I trust you. I trust you with my life. I trust that this is the man for me. This is the one you did tell me. When I was in school, in college of biblical studies, when we went through this Song of Samuel and the attributes of a husband and the loving God, you know, he kept showing me this man's face, and I was like, okay, God, you know, this is the one. So you know what, couples out there, you know, stick through it, fight it out, you know. Now, but if it's toxic, you know, I'm talking about physically harmful to you, you know, separate. You know, our pastor always teaches us, you know, you separate in a toxic situation until that other partner matures, you know. But, you know, let divorce be your last option. You know, seek the help, seek the counseling. Don't be ashamed, because you're not the only one going through it. You know, we can attest, we can testify to it. You know, we've been through it. You know, we've been through having to go sit down with the counselor. Lord, just help me, Lord, because, you know, I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do. You know, he done been at the same point. You know, I know I'm wrong. Please forgive me. She don't want to listen. You know, and this us having to come together and just submitting to one to another as we submit to God. So that's just how our marriage is going right now, you know. Yeah.
It's real talk, real talk. You learn something new every day. That's why I love doing these interviews. You know, I done seen Danny a couple times. He probably don't remember. We met at the 3rd Ward event when we did when you did a show over there, and I happened to be there. And you know, quiet guy, humble. You know, good guy. He just beat me in some pool, but we ain't gonna even talk about that. You know, Christians like pool too. Just so y'all that's talking about, he play pool. Christians like pool too. Danny put a whooping on me, but I'm gonna get him back. We ain't gonna even talk about that though. You know, I'm gonna forgive him because the Bible says forgive. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know the man was a preacher. I didn't know the man was a minister. I knew he was a supportive husband. You know, I knew he was by his wife, supporting her, pushing her on, and elevating her to her next level, but never knew God had a calling on his life. You know, so I definitely want to get the testimony that you're talking about. I know it's late tonight, so if we got time tonight, great, but if not, we're going to definitely get it, you know, the whole 9. But, you know, speak to me a little bit, man, if you don't mind, you know, about having your wife in ministry. I know it's a hard deal. You know, I'm a minister myself, and, you know, my wife is growing in ministry and the whole 9, and just speak to just speak to husbands that have wife in ministry. You know, how it's been for you guys. You know, I know Ray's just talked a little bit about, you know, how the struggle has been, and since day 3 of the marriage and the whole 9. But coming from a male's perspective, how is that?
Well, I just like to go back to my New Orleans days and how I used to listen to Jay-Z and 50 Cent, and Lil Wayne. You know, do that thing on the track, and to try to play that music while my mom was home was almost like an offense to her, you know. And I always thought, you know, how can, you know, why don't anyone make a nice song with positive lyrics over a nice beat that, you know, 50 Cent and Lil Wayne and Jay-Z would use, you know. And but when I came across my wife, Christine, before we was married and before we even, you know, started dating or what have you, the first thing she did was handed me a CD, and the CD was my first Christian album that I listened to. And when I heard it, I instantly clung to it because it was pretty much what I really needed, you know, a positive message over a banging beat. And I thought it was just so awesome, you know. And even with that, you know, just getting to know her, like she elaborated with on a few minutes ago, you know, I knew she was the one from the first day that we even talked on the phone. And it was like 2 weeks before I even had a chance to meet her. But because of all the events and everything that happened, I just want you to know, all the fellas out there, that, you know, God can give you that one that you've always been praying for. Don't never give up, because God has that special one for you out there. And even after we got married, you know, we had events and everything that kind of like, you know, tried to weigh us down. But you know, a lot of men out there, you know, figure, you know, that they have to be the boss sometimes. Sometimes we come from bruised backgrounds. And a lot of times just watching, you know, our mothers, if we came, like I came back from a single mother home. And my father wasn't there. I saw my father one time in my whole life. So it's like I really never had a father figure to kind of model myself after, other than, you know, some of the men in church that made sure that I made it to church. But I basically was lost. I went into marriage not really knowing what it meant to be a husband. And if I was to recommend anything to anyone, any young man or any couple out there that's contemplating marriage, get counseling. Take the time to get counseling. Yeah. A lot of times we think we know what it takes, and, you know, we have our protocol for what should happen. But the main protocol that most men have is that they want a wife that cook, clean the house and everything. But at the same time, you have to look into her life and see what God has for her, because God might not have for her what you're expecting. You see, so she may be the one for you, but at the same time, you have to understand what God has for the both of you.
Yeah, I'm not a cook.
You can't look at the whole situation like, you know, it's all going to be about you and she's going to cater to you the whole time. Sometimes you may have to get up there and cook. Sometimes you may have to get up there if she's out in ministry, or vice versa, and wash clothes and have her bath water ready when she gets home. You know, so it's a joint thing. And a lot of times, you know, when we're dating, you know, our fiancés or our significant other, you know, a lot of times we try to